3 ways to free your future. That's what I'd like to share with you today. But first, thanks for joining me. My name's Andrea Brown. This is Thrival Now, a new YouTube channel committed to helping you go from survival to thrival in every area of your life using the atomic power of a mini habit. So, just want to show you my view before I jump in. Just hiked to the top of this, not exactly a mountain, but a really good hill in my backyard, my new backyard, since I just moved to Eastern Tennessee in this past year. I'm still exploring it, but this is the view that I'm sharing with you as I sit. So, 3 ways to free your future. Kind of a weird phrase, but it is a phrase that has got me through some tough days. I found myself in the position of, quote, being fired from a pretty great job that I had for about a year. This was a number of years ago, in between some of my entrepreneurship forays. But before I got married, it was just before I met my husband. So this had to have been about 11 years ago. I'd been working for a really well-known company that did a lot of management consulting, and I had the privilege of traveling all over the country and working with a number of really well-recognized businesses. But through a combination of events, I had a little bit of a run-in with a supervisor, and I think she ascribed to me some ill will, and I kind of got on her radar. And at some point I realized that she had it in for me, and there was no way that I could kind of reconcile, or, I'd stepped on her toes, I guess, and there was no way to undo it. And ultimately found myself kind of cornered and set up, was officially fired, and it was mostly conjured up so that this company had covered, CYA. They'd taken care of everything. So from the human resource department, they looked like they had it buttoned up. But suddenly I found myself ousted. Totally shocked, totally came out of left field. And the only thing that I could use to kind of console myself, if you would, was that I've always loved the phrase that if one person gives you feedback, it's an opinion. If multiple people give you the feedback, then it's probably a problem, and there's probably some real issues. So this was the first time that I had ever been fired from a job. But when I looked at the history of this company, one of the things that the darker side of it was that there had been a number of people that had kind of disappeared from this company in the year prior that I had worked there, and mysteriously suddenly did not work there. And it was imputed that these people had been fired. And I realized suddenly, when the rug was pulled out from under me, I began to question whether it would have been legit for the other people as well. Now, I found myself in a situation that I didn't want to tell anybody. It was, I fought a lot of shame. And as I was kind of walking out of the office, I was escorted. And so they had their reasons for doing that. But being escorted out, from this job that had been, totally corporate, whatever, I was fighting the humiliation. I mean, you just run through the list of a company you're proud to work with for a year, make great money, travel, I mean, whatever. It was hard. And so as I reeled from this situation, I ended up, lots of things go through your mind in that moment. And I suddenly realized it didn't matter what the situation was. A few close friends might believe me, but how do I put this out to other people? Because it's almost like they say everyone in prison is innocent, right? So I'm like, okay, right. Everybody who ever gets fired probably says they didn't deserve it. Maybe there was something in it that I deserved. But I can either live with the label that I was fired, or I can focus on the fact that they freed my future. I'd heard that phrase somewhere before. Somebody in jest, in passing, had said that, and I decided to hang on to it. And so as I drove home that day, just battling the humiliation, the shame, what am I going to do? I mean, I was fired at, 9 in the morning. I have the whole day left ahead of me. I don't want to tell anyone. But I knew that how I internalized it would affect everything. And when you face a bad situation, it isn't usually even the situation itself that is your biggest battle. It's how you internalize it and the meaning that you give to that situation. And so as I focused on this idea that what if I wasn't fired and they maybe didn't intentionally do it, but they freed my future. And as I focused on this, I realized a few things that I had been whispering to myself in the quiet moments over the year before. As much as I had enjoyed the job and loved aspects of it, I had also caught myself telling a few close confidants, journaling, and kind of telling myself in private that, man, if I'm at this job, if I'm still with this company in another year, like, I'll probably shrivel up and die. Like, I knew there was a certain element of this job that was hard for me. It was very corporate. The traveling was great, the being around the people, but I didn't like working behind a computer in a cubicle. I didn't like not seeing the sunshine or being outside. I didn't like not controlling my schedule, especially after the years that I'd had of my own businesses and an entrepreneurship. And so in those moments, as I was trying to internalize and decide how I was going to do it, what I did was I decided if I really believed they freed my future, then I would celebrate that. I would act like it. And so I decided to act my way into a new way of being. And I decided to do something I hadn't done in quite a while, which was to celebrate my future being freed. And that was to go skiing. And so I took myself skiing that day, and I really hadn't been in a long time. So it was pretty exciting. It was something I could think of that was a way to celebrate. I went by myself to the mountains, and as I rode the chairlift up and down, and as I skied, I just focused on this idea that they freed my future. And the 3 keys I want to give you are this idea of acting your way into a new way of being, choosing how you think about these things, and what you speak. And so I hung on to this phrase of how they freed my future. And as I went and did something to kind of put a stake in the ground and go, this is how I'm going to choose. They might have thought they fired me, but I've decided they freed my future. So I staked my ground. I chose to celebrate, which was really wild. And then I began to tell everybody this. And so when I had to tell them that I was no longer working with this particular company, I acknowledged that that company fired me and kind of the battle that I was still dealing with. But I also even laughingly would say, well, they freed my future. And I said it over and over to everyone in describing that situation. And the more that I spoke about it and used that phrase, and I didn't let that word fired define me or that season of my life, it helped to change my thinking. Because many times you think you have to change your thinking by starting here, but you actually have to start by what you're doing, how you're moving your body, how you show up in places, and how you speak about things. And so as I changed, first of all, what I did on that very day in the most painful moment of it, like, I took myself home, I decided on this idea, and I went with it. I jumped in, I put money, where my heart was, to celebrate this moment, which seemed asinine, truly. But then as I did it, I began to believe it. And so this opened up a number of doors in the days ahead and gave me a radical new kind of, it opened up a whole nother season, and I can share that another time. But I just encourage you, if you're somebody that is facing failure, you can look at it through a new lens and believe that your future has been freed. Whatever an ending is, it can be a new beginning. It's a little cliche, but you're writing your own book. You're the hero of your life, and you can create a new chapter. You can write a new scene. You just have to script it out. So be encouraged today to do something new, to put your stake in the ground and free your future.